Certain behaviours or symptoms, you might call them, of early infancy and young childhood, such as difficulty in sleeping, difficulty with eating, tantruming, and then clinging and difficulties with separating from the parents. They're all behaviours which engage the parent. And what he was saying was, it was odd because, in fact, these children had their parents with them. So their parents weren't gone, like they were not abandoned children. But that, nevertheless, there was a separation anxiety. So that there would be something in the interaction which was making children anxious about their relationship with their parents and anxiously attached.
Bowlby estimated that 40% of children were anxiously or insecurely attached, and more recent studies in North America have turned up similar results. Out of Bowlby's beliefs came a new theory that sought to explain how problems in adult life could be traced to how children were handled in the first years of life. In a new book, New York psychologist Robert Caron has reviewed Bowlby's studies and all those that have come since.
The bond we form with our mother and father is one of the primary motivating forces in our lives. I think parents and society in general grossly underestimates the power of early relationships, how much babies love, how much they need to be loved, how really intelligent they are about relationships, how much they feel, how much they experience, how much they pick up what goes on between the lines.
Which is the daddy? And the baby?
Robert Caron and attachment theorists believe that if children leave the sandbox with an insecure connection to their parents, they are at greater risk of becoming society's problem in later life.
Oliver, is it your birthday?
My birthday.
When you have a volatile mix, as we have today in society, where entertainment is full of violence, where there's an easy access to weapons, where people are feeling left out of the social equation and therefore feeling very little investment in society. When you add to all this a sense of insecure attachment, where people have a psychology which tells them no one's going to be there for me, that I don't matter much, that I'm not really worth very much, and it makes me furious, then that volatile mixture becomes a lot more volatile.
Attachment scholars like Caron worry about children walking in the footsteps of a damaged relationship. Insecurely attached children often grow up to be parents who have the same problem with their own children.
Parent-child relationship is stored in our memory systems from far earlier than we remember, than the verbal memories we have. And in many ways, from what we know of the attachment systems, much of the really important stuff goes on in the first year and a half. And that storage is at the automatic level. And what we do, we now know that what we tend to do as parents is repeat the behavioral patterns that we stored at that level.
Marceline Brigden is heading for the Hinks. For her in Victoria, the tests are over. Now starts the serious work, the play. Therapist Liz Muir is laying out a room full of toys for Victoria in the belief that an 18-month-old child who can barely speak can still communicate and can somehow show her mother what is really bothering her.
Their way of trying to express how they're feeling or give voice to their needs is through play and activity. And so when we're working with babies and toddlers, we pay a lot of attention to that because it's our way of trying to understand. She'll start to see this little girl more objectively, just see her for who she is. And in the course of that, she'll start to understand more and more about what's going on in her mind, what bothers Victoria, what she's struggling with, because Victoria will show us through her play.
This is Marceline and Victoria's first session in an 8-week program called Watch, Wait, and Wonder. For the first half of their 1-hour visit, Victoria will lead the play. Then there will be discussion. Liz Muir reminds Marceline of the rules.
Okay.
Okay, do you remember the instructions?
Right, just sit on the floor and keep eye contact with her.
Follow her lead at all times. Don't take over or initiate any activity. Let her always be the initiator.
Okay. I remember.
In a room full of toys, Victoria goes immediately to the doll, and the first thing she does is put it to bed. Her mother says she never plays with dolls, but today the child who doesn't sleep is preoccupied with them.
The other thing she was doing with the dolls was she was feeding the dolls with the baby bottles. And Marceline was saying in the session that she's having a struggle at the moment, not only around the feeding at the table, but that she is wanting to help Victoria give up the bottle. So the battle around the bottle is very important, so she fed herself a little bit quickly and furtively, but then she fed the baby. So there are two preoccupations of Marceline's and Nell's right in there, in the play.
I was really amazed by this. I think it is exactly.
In subsequent play sessions, Victoria uses the toys to help her mother understand other things that are bothering her.
She would get this, stethoscope on, and she would be, banging it on me and hitting me with it as hard as she could. Liz said to me, "What do you notice about this session, this one day?" And I said, "Well, she seems very aggressive with this doctor's kit." And she was trying to hit me with it, and I was kind of saying, "No, don't do this." She said, "Well, how did it make you feel?" And I said, "Well, scared that she was going to hit me." And she said, "Well, maybe that's the way she's feeling towards the doctor."
After just a couple of hours of watching her child play, Marceline begins to understand Victoria's behavior in the doctor's office.
And if he comes in, well, she's just nuts. Like he has to lean on her to hold her down, like to look at her.
Does he? Does he?
Because she'll be kicking him and hitting him, and yeah, and he hasn't done anything to her. Like he's trying to listen to her heart.
When Victoria plays doctor a few weeks later, she is notably more gentle. It turns out she visited the real doctor this week, and Marceline, with her new sensitivity to her daughter's fears, made an extra effort to comfort her.
I mean, she was upset, but she calmed down very quickly. It'll be interesting over the next couple of weeks to see what else, comes out. Yeah, from just watching her play.
There are also plenty of clues in Callum's play, though in his first few visits, his preoccupation seems to be falling over. He flails about the room, unable to focus on any one toy. This is among the first observations Liz Muir puts in the Hollett file. The first connection is drawn between his play and his problem.
How much does his lack of relaxation in the play and maybe in bed at night have to do with the lack of relaxation in the relationship?
In the brief moments when he did focus, however, there was a glimpse of something.
Fairly early on in the piece, there was just a fleeting moment. He had us back to the camera and to his mother, and he'd picked up the little baby's bottle, and he put it in his mouth, and he kind of looked as if he felt he shouldn't be doing this, and then put it down again immediately. And I thought it was just the whole way that he did this that I felt it really was very important. And I thought, the thought crossed my mind, there's something here to do with an expression of a particular kind of infantile need or a baby need, something to do with nurturance and around bottles and being fed and things like that. And then he seemed to ignore it, and then I thought, well, maybe I was just imagining it. And then a little bit later he came back to it, and he wanted to feed himself, he wanted to feed his mother, and he was feeding the doll. So we started to elaborate that a little. And right at the very end of the session, Catherine said something really very important. It's something that's concerning her. And it relates to a lot of the other things she was discussing in the session, which had to do with her feelings about having to attend to two babies, not one.
Sometimes I kind of feel bad, like I nursed Tristan until he was 9 months old.